Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. So glad you guys could join us today. For those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X, we're glad you all can be with us. Going to connect with our friends over on Instagram so they can be a part of our show today, too. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon so I can introduce our guest for today. You guys are going to really enjoy this segment if you're into mystery, but also into travel. I think you guys will really enjoy this. We're excited to welcome best-selling author Tori Eldridge to our broadcast today. She's celebrating her new book, Kauai Storm. You guys can see it here. At the time we're having this conversation, it is a #1 new release here on Amazon. If you guys are on the Amazon platform, you'll see the book here in this corner or down below. So definitely make sure you guys get your copy of it. For those joining us on social, you notice the link that will bring you guys over to Amazon. But Tori, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, aloha. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, look, I was just saying to you before we went live, and I'll catch our audience up. I do travel for work for the shows and everything. I have never been to Hawaii. So it was fun for me after reading the book to find out more information about Kauai, of course, to be able to find out about the island, but also what makes it so special. So I want to ask you, Tori, what has it been like for you to not only to enjoy this new bestseller, but also to be introducing many people to the island?
Oh, it is so special to me. Every book that I write has a personal connection to me. And this one came at the perfect time in my life because I'm a new tutu. Tutu is Hawaiian for grandmother.
Mm.
And when my grandkids, Moana and Nahele, were born, I realized that I would become that kupuna who would be sharing their Hawaiian heritage with them. And so it was really a perfect time for me to dive into this topic and this subject and this location.
Yeah, I love it. And you're able to give us not only a mystery, we're going to dive into that a little bit later, but also I was saying to you that Kauai is such a big part of the story. It's almost a character in itself. And that led me then to your YouTube channel, Tori, which I love the fact you kind of took us into your own exploration and kind of showing us some of the parts of the story. Talk to us about that, because I saw in another interview you talked about how the character that the ranger came to you first, which we'll get into that. But what was it like for you to kind of be on the ground doing the research and sharing that with the rest of us too?
Oh, I love Kauai. It's my favorite island, always has been. And so the YouTube videos you're talking about, they're on location. So they're settings from Kauai Storm. So, I did my research trips in Kauai. I did a lot of talk story with friends on the phone and on videocast, and then the usual research online and whatnot. But then I went back to Kauai for the sole purpose of taking videos and pictures of all the great locations and doing some of the exciting things like paddleboarding up the Wailua River and hiking up to Ulawehi Falls and going up and hiking up into Pu'uokila Lookout, where the Pihea Trail is in Koke'e Park, where some exciting adventures happen up there. And it was just really, it felt so fun to share that aloha. And it just seemed like a much more fun way to, launch a book with my readers than, the usual kind of stuff.
Well, especially for people like myself, Tori, as I mentioned, who've never been, right? I mean, it really made it, your excitement made me more excited, to find out more information about it, which is what, led me to Google University to find other videos and things. Right. Because so, what I'm known for and what you give us in Kauai Storm is a great story. And I want to talk about, is it pronounced Makalani?
Makalani, yeah,
Okay.
Makalani Pahukula.
So what is so interesting about Makalani is that for me, I think the character is so relatable and so universal in that there's the idea of what you're trying to get away from, but also what how you really cannot deny, for one, who you are, and also where you are, in the stream of family when it comes to work. What was it like for you? You had mentioned in another interview that I noticed when I was prepping for this segment that the character came to you first. What was it about Makalani that kind of stood out to you?
Oh, I wanted a strong Hawaiian woman. Hawaiians are a proud race of majestic people. She is 6 feet tall and not that model slim. She's strong, you know, she can pick up a man, carry him up a mountain if she has to. And she does have to, because she's a ranger. And I wanted to give her those wilderness skills. She's also law enforcement ranger, so she can handle firearms. I wanted to give her all the tools and skills and appreciation necessary to handle everything I was going to throw at her in this book. So that was really important. The other thing is, like me, she's part of the Hawaiian diaspora. She's been away from home for 10 years. And so, you know, this is, as you were saying, a universal theme of identity, coming home, trying to fit in back again, where people are like, you know, you're not as local as you were. And she doesn't know why, you know, and trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So as you were talking, I thought about another layer of the story that fits into the mystery aspect, Tori, and that is that Makalani is also trying to deal with the fact that what we were just talking about, the beauty, which is why I want to set the conversation up that way, the beauty of Kauai and everything. But there's also, just like any place in the United States, there's also the darkness that's there too, right? With the people dealing with different issues, you know, even in a place that beautiful. What was that contrast like to you to explore, setting this in such a beautiful place, but dealing with these really dark forces that Makalani finds?
Well, you know, I have, there are so many, you know, fun, exciting books that are set in Hawaii, and many of them are written by my friends, and, you know, I love them. But if I, as a Kanaka Maoli, as a native Hawaiian, was going to write about Hawaii, I really felt it was important to write about what Native Hawaiians were experiencing in Hawaii today. That was a major force of this book. And in doing so, I also wanted to bring my readers into a truly Hawaiian family. This is a multi-generational, multi-ethnic family on a traditional Hawaiian homestead in little bitty Anahola, Kauai. I mean, they even grow their own kalo, that's taro, you know, to pound into poi. And so I wanted my readers to get a sense of the aloha of the family, the ohana, the way that works, how it works when we intermarry and we bring in new cultures into our family, as, you know, always happens wherever you are in the world. And so that was really important. But I also wanted them to understand the challenges that Native Hawaiians face. And I wanted to lift that veil. So people who have come to Hawaii, who love Hawaii, who want to go back again, can maybe see it through different eyes and go, oh, and increase their appreciation for the Hawaiian people.
Yeah, I love that. And I definitely feel that. Allie Dalsimer, hello to you, Allie. Good to be able to see you over there on IG. Allie says, I love this perspective. It really does add a lot, but that is what is so fun about this book, Tori, is that you, again, having never been there, having no real point of reference to say, oh yeah, I know what this looks like. You really make that so real. But as you were talking, I thought about something else, though, that Makalani deals with that also ties into the story, but also us. And that is, when the chips are down, though, who can you depend on? And at the end of the day, for so many, she's able to find those people too, and her connection there. Let's step back a little bit, Tori, because you have written other books before you wrote Kauai Storm. Was it easy for you to make the transition from the other characters that you've made popular to something brand new?
You know, it's always challenging. Like my Lily Wong series is about a Chinese Norwegian modern day ninja. And, you know, I was mentioning about timing in my life. I had just come off of 2 decades of training and teaching as a 5th degree black belt in the ninja martial arts. And I wanted to pay homage to my Norwegian father and my Chinese Hawaiian mother before they passed away. So that was a really important time to write that. I was really into that. When Dance Among the Flames came out, I had actually started that many, many years ago, but that explored the Brazilian culture, and I fell in love with that when I went to Brazil. So starting again with Hawaii, I start all my books with research, and it's from there that characters emerge and that families emerge, and then that a story emerges. So I think it wasn't so much, ooh, how do I switch gears, to write about a different person, but that by the time Makalani had already appeared to me from all that research and talking story and, ruminating about what I wanted to do, she was already in me, and so that gave this book its own tone. This book has a very different voice than the Lily Wong thrillers.
Yeah.
It has its own voice. Makalani has her own voice, and the different points of view, the characters within the book, they also have their own voice.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that earlier in the conversation, Tori, you were describing Makalani and talking about what made her stand out. It's so interesting. She doesn't always appreciate the things that are great qualities for her, and what she has to bring. And that also is an interesting dynamic for her to have the job she does, but also to trust herself, right? What was that like for you to create that dynamic of her being in a place of trust and people looking up to her in many ways, depending on her, for her having to, because of personal circumstances, I'll put it that way, and people see in the book, having to realize it's okay to trust who I am and what I bring to the table?
Well, I think so much of what authors write comes from what we're experiencing. And I know me as a person, I've done a lot of things, and people can think, oh, wow, such confidence and everything. But I got to tell you, I feel a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-questioning, a lot of, insecurities when I'm in certain situations or communities or with certain new people. And so I think this is real. I don't think it's unusual. I think a lot of people feel this way. I would venture to say almost everyone. And so these are the things that always tend to come out. Makalani has some very interesting things that do reflect on me. And as I listened to the audiobook, I was on book tour. My husband and I listened to the audiobook on a drive, and I narrated the audiobook. Mm-hmm. And so here I am listening, and I had to laugh at some point. My husband laughed. He looks at me because he knows that's me. He's like, you're just like that. One of them is having too much energy for the island, too driven, too focused on work. I had to get out as soon as I, graduated, because I just had so much energy to get out and do. So, that's the kind of thing that I like to, put into her. But the flip side is, right, that has helped her build homes for Habitat Humanity in her own community, helps her with the community, her family, but at the same time, a lot of people don't always appreciate all that energy and work. Right. So, it's, again, a universal thing, right? There's always a flip coin.
Yeah, that's why I keep coming back to that, Tori, because there's so many great layers of the story that fit Makalani's situation, in the island, but also fit us all, and so I think that's one of the interesting things, other than dealing with, a murder.
You got to have a murder.
Right. I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I have the privilege of speaking with best-selling author Tori Eldridge today. She's celebrating her newest book, Kauai Storm. You guys see here a #1 new release right now on Amazon. You guys can get it in print here on Amazon, or you can get the Kindle edition for only $3.99. I thought about, Tori, one thing I noticed when I was prepping for this segment. I watched other interviews and listened to other interviews to make sure I didn't ask you the same question everyone's been asking you. But I do want to ask you, because you have a unique perspective on something broader, and that is the evolution of the way we enjoy books today. You just, even in this conversation, mentioned, I saw the video on YouTube, by the way, of you narrating, your own book. Of course, we have the Kindle edition. What has that been like for you to see the different ways your books are touching people, either in print, like I enjoy them, or even in the audio format?
Oh, it is so fun. And with the audio format, I have to tell you, it was one of the highlights of both my acting and my writing career, because I used to be an actress in Broadway musicals and on television and film. And I even did voiceovers, but that was, a little bit in the past.
Yeah.
And so when they asked me to audition and gave me the gig, I had to audition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. But being able to voice the characters as I've always heard them in my head, and
Hmm.
as I speak them when I'm writing, because yeah, I do that,
Hmm.
it made it all just like I was just right there. All the different, characters and the feelings and the language, right? So, some people will say, "Oh, be careful of dialects." Don't do too many dialects in novels.
Hmm.
Well, I got to tell you, if I was going to tell an honest portrayal of
Yeah.
Native Hawaiians in Hawaii today, you're going to have dialect. You got
Yeah.
to have a little bit kind pidgin English in there. But I try and put it in a way that, once you kind of get used to it, it gives you a musicality of the islands. And the other thing that was really important was putting Olelo Hawaii, the Native Hawaiian language, because it was banned for a while. And we have a resurgence of bringing it back in schools, in family. And so I wanted to share that in my book, but in such a way that it invites my readers in instead of giving them, an obstacle, right? It's
Right.
like, come, e komomai, come, welcome, come into this world.
Yeah. That sense of belonging, right? I love that. And again, that was one of the fun things for me. Tori, that doesn't have to be honest. It doesn't happen to me a lot where I'm reading a book that I enjoy the fact, okay, I need more context. So
Oh,
I better understand
good.
because of the fact of me not having the knowledge, and that's what I love about, I think it's great about a great book that's able to do that, make you want to feel more a part of it, to understand what people are saying, the emotion that they're feeling. So, talk to us about that journey for you, because you have had other books that have done very well. Now you're kicking off this new series with Makalani. How does that feel to know that readers literally around the world, Tori, are not only enjoying your work but really immersing themselves in the worlds you create?
Oh, thank you for saying that, and I hope it reaches a lot of people. It was my main goal. It's my heart's desire, right? To share Hawaii, to share the aloha, to share our people with the world is something that was so very important and precious to me. And I got to say, as a reader, that's what I enjoy in books.
Yeah.
I love my mysteries, I love my thrillers, I love my genre fiction, right? But at the same time, I also want to learn something new.
Yeah.
I want to broaden my own perspective. That's what keeps me fascinated and interested. If it's just kind of straight up, mystery or thriller or suspense, sometimes I feel like, okay, I've read that before.
Yeah.
But if I have that and it's in a setting, a community, a culture, something new, then I'm even more interested. It gives me more investment in that. And that's what I like to do when I'm writing.
Love that. Well, you've definitely done an amazing job, Tori. So glad we get a chance to spend this week with you. Congratulations on the success of the new book. Again, you guys can get it here on Amazon, either in print, the Kindle edition, or the audiobook, narrated by the author herself. Let our audience know, Tori, how they can stay connected with you.
Oh, I got a website, torieldridge.com. My favorite social media is Instagram, writer.tori. And then you can find me on pretty much all the other social media, either Tori Eldridge author.
Okay. Well, make sure we tag you as well. Tori, thank you so much for spending your pub week with us, and looking forward to our next conversation together.
Okay, mahalo nui loa. Thanks so much for having me.
You're more than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.